Bandits attacked the village, but my husband, the militia captain, took all the militiamen to the city to watch a movie with his first love. The village chief asked me to bring my husband back, but I refused outright. In my previous life, pregnant and riding a fast horse, I took a shortcut to the city, pulled my husband out of the movie theater, and saved the entire village. Bai Yueguang, however, was defiled by a few escaped bandits and thrown into the woods to be devoured by wolves. My husband hunted down those bandits, then locked himself in his room for 3 days and 3 nights. After coming out, he never mentioned the incident again, until the county, impressed by my heroic rescue, appointed me as the director of women's affairs for Bai Yueguang. On the day I gave birth, my husband dragged me, weak and frail, into the woods. He broke my legs, slit open my belly, and left my entrails for the beasts to devour. It was you, for your own selfish gain. You colluded with those bandits and got her killed. Since you're so fond of imitating her, I'll make sure you die exactly the same way she did. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day the bandits raided the village. This time, if he wants to protect his precious white moonlight, then so be it, let him. The gunshot rang out, and I was reborn. I rushed outside in a panic. The moment I opened the door, the village chief came running in. Mingyang, bandits are coming. Get your husband up, quick, we need to rally the militia to protect the village. Before I could say a word, the village chief's wife spoke up from behind me. Oldly, I've looked everywhere. All the able-bodied men in the village are gone, and the rifles from the militia office are missing too. I looked up and saw most of the village women standing behind her, their faces etched with fear. The village chief was dumbfounded. Where have they all gone? As the only one in the know, I had no choice but to tell them. Shuangsua took them all to see a movie with Bai Shue. Outrageous. The village chief frowned. The county just issued a warning about bandits roaming the hills. The militia was supposed to be on high alert, and they go AWOL to watch a movie. Hearing this, several women also started cursing, calling Bai Shue shameless for luring all those men out. As they spoke, several more gunshots rang out. Everyone screamed. The village chief kept his cool. All able-bodied men left in the village. Go and secure the main stone gate. The women and children, take shelter in the tunnels. Don't come out until you hear our voices. The village's location was unique. There were 2 roads leading into the village. One was the main road used daily. At the village entrance stands a large stone gate, a legacy left by our ancestors. This is a mountainous region, where people are poor and bandits are plentiful. That great stone gate was built to fend off the bandits. Once shut, it was very difficult to open. There's another path, a small trail behind the mountain. That trail winds and twists through treacherous terrain. One wrong step and you could fall right off the mountainside. So even though it's only a half-hour ride to the county town on horseback, nobody uses it on a regular day. After explaining all this, the village chief looked at me. Mingyang, you know how to ride. And you've been on that trail before. Hurry, take the back mountain path, find your husband and tell him to bring the militia back here to save everyone. I bit my lip. Village chief, it's not that I don't want to go. I'm just afraid that even if I do, Shuangsua won't come back with me. As soon as the words were spoken, everyone fell silent. Ever since Bai Shui came to our village as the women's director, my husband's eyes have been glued to her. Everyone in the village knows we fight over her every single day. Just as I felt my face burning under everyone's gaze, my sister-in-law came to my rescue. I'll go, she said. I've traveled that road before. Besides, my sister-in-law is pregnant. We can't risk her having a miscarriage over this. The moment the village chief nodded, my sister-in-law rushed home, saddled her horse, and rode off. The village chief's wife then led us into the tunnel to wait for help. An hour and a half later, my sister-in-law returned. When she appeared at the tunnel entrance, everyone cheered, thinking the militia had come back. But then, her face pale, she said, the men refused to return. Everyone was stunned. Why? My sister-in-law's tears began to fall. They're accusing me of spreading lies, she sobbed, especially my own brother. He says I'm in cahoots with his wife to deceive everyone. I was on my knees begging them to believe me, and they just called me shameless. Who knows how deeply she had been wronged? As she finished speaking, her weeping grew even louder. Infected by the sister-in-law's raw emotion, everyone began to curse Snow White, denouncing her as nothing but trouble. She calls herself the head of the Women's Association, but she never lifts a finger to help any woman. All she does is fawn over those men all day long. Before the cursing could finish, a deafening boom echoed from outside. Everyone jumped to their feet. Unsure of what had just happened, the village chief appeared at the tunnel entrance and informed everyone that the bandits had brought landmines and were planning to blow the great stone gate open. What do we do now? Someone wailed, their voice trembling. Are we going to die in here? Seeing the look of fear on everyone's faces, I thought for a moment. If our village militia doesn't return, we can go and find another village's militia. I'll go. My sister-in-law, her tears not yet dry, immediately made to leave, but soon, everyone noticed she was limping. After forcing her to sit down, they pulled up her pant legs. Both of her calves were swollen like steamed buns. Only then did she sheepishly admit that she had been riding too fast and had taken a fall. It's all right, I can still walk. My sister-in-law was determined to save everyone, forcing herself to stand up. I held her down firmly. Don't go, I'll go. Ignoring everyone's protests, I swung myself onto the horse. The village chief ran after me. Ming Yang, you must find them and bring them back within 2 hours. The great stone gate won't hold for much longer. I gave a firm, solemn nod. I was halfway there when a figure suddenly rushed out onto the path. I reined in my horse just in time. My eyes lit up the moment I recognized the man standing there. It was none other than Gaddafi, the militia captain from the neighboring village. I quickly dismounted and exclaimed with delight, Dafu. What are you doing here? I was just about to tell him about the situation in the village. He suddenly grabbed my arm and pinned me down. Gaddafi sneered. Been waiting to catch you. My arm went numb. What do you mean? Weren't you on your way to see the bandits? Gaddafi looked at me with utter disgust. Your husband came to me first thing this morning. Told me to wait here for you. Said you'd definitely take this path to find them. Wu Mingyang, your father was a hero who fought bandits. And here you are, conspiring with them out of jealousy. You're a disgrace to his name. My mind went blank with a sudden buzz. Even though he was speaking Chinese, it took me a long moment to grasp his meaning. In my past life, when Zhang Shuangsua killed me, he said the exact same thing. He claimed I was the one who called the bandits into the village, all to gain merit and steal Bai Shui's position as the women's director. They're claiming I was the one who ordered the bandits to defile Bai Shui. In that instant, it dawned on me, Zhang Suasua had almost certainly been reborn as well. That's why, no matter how much my sister-in-law pleaded, he refused to come back. But I never imagined he would go this far, cutting off the last possible avenue for help. I didn't have time to respond to his accusations. Adopting a humble tone, I said, Dafu. I'm not in cahoots with the bandits. I came here because they've entered our village. They're using explosives to blow open the Great Stone Gate. All our village militia were taken by Zhang Suasua to accompany Bai Shui to see a movie. You need to rally your village's militia and come to our aid right now. If we're too late, the whole village will be wiped out. Perhaps my expression was too grave, because Gaddafi was stunned for a few seconds. He soon burst into laughter. Wu Mingyang, you're quite the actor. I almost believed you. But to claim that Suasua would neglect his duty and take a whole militia squad to accompany a woman to the movies, that's just too far-fetched. I know Shuangsua better than anyone. He's a man of such strong responsibility, a retired veteran soldier. How could he possibly lack that basic level of awareness? His mockery cut me to the quick. I'm telling the truth, I said, my heart aching. If you don't believe me, go and see for yourself. I think you're just trying to trick me into leaving so you can go find those bandits yourself. Gaddafi waved his hand dismissively and said to me with utter seriousness, Wu Mingyang, don't be so stubborn. Do you know why I'm standing here alone? It's because Shuangsua asked me to talk sense into you, to make you see the error of your ways. He cares about you. Otherwise, he would have reported this to the police station long ago, and you'd already be under arrest. Zhang Shuangsua loved me. I believed that was true. Before Bai Shui came into the picture, he and his younger sister were rescued by my father from a bandit den. His parents had both been killed by the bandits. He was only 10 years old when he came to live with us. We grew up together. When he was 16, his father was killed by bandits in an act of revenge. With his dying breath, his father entrusted me to his care. He gave his word. Later, he decided to join the army. Before he left, he asked me to wait for him. He served for 5 years, and for those 5 years, I waited, raising his younger sister as my own. After he returned, we got married, but his attitude towards me has always been lukewarm. Everyone told me it's because we've known each other for too long. And that's just how boring old married couples are. I believed them. It wasn't until Bai Shui appeared that I realized there could be a light in Zhang Shuangsua's eyes, too. He would help her with the farm work, stare at her in her dress for a long time, and even secretly save up to buy her face cream. Thinking of these things, my heart ached once more. But now was not the time for sentimental sorrow over trivial romance, especially since Gaddafi wouldn't lift a finger to help. I'll just go a bit farther. There's a garrison outpost 20 kilometers away. I'm a better rider than any man. If I push the horse, I can make it there within the hour. The village can still be saved. I was just about to mount my horse when Gaddafi seized me again. Are you going to look for the bandits? If you won't save him, I'll find someone else. I struggled against his grip. Get off me. I forbid you to go. Gaddafi wrenched my arm with a sudden, brutal force, and my shoulder dislocated. He took out a rope, tied me up, and started pulling me toward his village. I was so frantic I was nearly in tears. Gaddafi, let me go. I have to go save everyone. Cut the crap, said Gaddafi as he hoisted me onto his horse. With me here, you're not going anywhere today. He led the horse, heading for his own village. Just as he reached the village entrance, he saw several men from his own militia squad running out, rifles in hand. Gaddafi quickly asked what was happening. Someone saw Stone Gate village surrounded by bandits. We have to go and help. Gaddafi's face went pale. The group of people were utterly dumbstruck when they arrived at Stone Gate village. The Great Stone Gate had been blasted open with explosives. The bandits had vanished without a trace. The village chief and several older men lay dead on the ground. You can tell a fierce battle took place here. The sight of the blood on the ground brought tears to my eyes. We were too late after all. Gaddafi trembled all over at the sight. The faces of the other militiamen also turned grim. After surveying the area, they discovered that all the dead were men. There were no women. They then turned and asked me where the tunnel was. When trouble comes, the men face it while the women take shelter in the tunnels. This was the consensus among several villages. I pointed to the location. When the tunnel entrance was opened, everyone was startled once more. Everyone was gone. Damn it, they must have been taken by bandits. What could these ruthless bandits possibly want with all these women they've taken? What else? They'll sell them, of course, in times like these. Women are worth more than men. Everyone thought of those grim fates, and in their fury, they kicked the wall a few times. I was utterly heartbroken. Just then, Gaddafi, who had been silent all this time, suddenly grabbed me by the collar and shouted, "Where did the bandits go?" I shook my head. I don't know. The others, startled by his appearance, came over and grabbed his arm. Dafu, what are you saying? How would she know where the bandits went? We should go to the police station. She's in cahoots with the bandits. Gaddafi's shout made everyone's faces change. My heart sank, and I hurriedly protested. No, that's not true. I'm not. How dare you keep lying? Gaddafi roared, his face flushed with rage as he slapped me across the face. How long are you going to keep playing the innocent? There are hundreds of lives at stake. Tell me, where are you hiding them? The remaining militiamen glared at me with pure hatred. How can a woman be so heartless? Sherman Village treated you well, didn't it? Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning for harming people like this? Confess, if you talk now, we might still catch up with them. I don't know. I really don't know. My cheek burned with a stinging pain, and my voice came out hoarse and ragged. A wave of despair washed over me. I don't understand what I have to do to make these people believe me. If only the bandits were people I knew, then I could find the villagers. In Gaddafi's eyes, my tears were nothing but a pretense. His eyes were bloodshot, seething with rage. He lifted his foot and kicked me in the stomach. You bitch, go to hell. My lower abdomen clenched, the pain leaving my whole body weak and limp. I felt a warm flow from between my legs. Before I could even see what it was, another flurry of kicks landed on me. They cursed me, calling me a monster and saying I had no conscience. Faced with their insults, I was in too much pain to fight back. A warm current was still washing over my leg. I knew it was nothing else. It was my child. Just as I thought I would be kicked to death by these men, a voice rang out. Stop. The men stopped. Someone rushed over and threw their arms around me. I caught her scent. It was my sister-in-law. Tears welled up in my sister-in-law's eyes. What gives you the right to hit my sister-in-law? Gaddafi's voice was hoarse. Shuangshu, stop defending her. She's the one who brought the bandits here. Impossible, the younger sister-in-law shouted. Gaddafi, do you even know who the bandit leader is? It's Yan Yunqing. The moment that name was spoken, everyone froze. Yan Yunqing was no ordinary man. He was the notorious bandit my father had taken down years ago. Back then, my father infiltrated his lair as an undercover agent and single-handedly destroyed the life's work he had built. Yan Yunqing lost an arm because of my father, and his wife and child died by my father's hand. He once vowed that he would wipe out my entire family sooner or later, so even if I were willing to collude with Yan Yunqing, the first time Yan Yunqing met me, he'd just put a bullet in me. At the same moment, the sound of frantic footsteps rose behind me. Zhang Shuangsua's voice reached my ears. What's going on here? I turned to look. Every man from the village had returned. Everyone's faces turned pale at the sight of the scattered corpses. The men were driven to a frenzy, especially upon learning that their wives had been taken by the bandits. Zhang Shuangsua, You said there were no bandits and told us not to worry. What the hell is going on? How could my father be dead? The village chief's son was the most agitated. With bloodshot eyes, he grabbed Zhang Shuangsua by the collar, looking as if he wanted to tear him apart. Bai Shui stood up for Zhang Shuangsua. Brotherly, it's not like Shuangsua invited these bandits here. The most urgent thing right now is to find the others. The village chief's son wiped away his tears and, taking a few men with him, went to the county police station to report the crime. It was impossible for the bandits to leave with so many people without being noticed. The rest of the group split up to ask in nearby villages if anyone had seen anything. Gaddafi began dealing with the bodies of the village chief and the others. Zhang Shuangsua remained rooted to the spot, his face etched with frustration and regret. Bai Shui tried to comfort him. Shuangsua, don't blame yourself so much. This is all on the bandits. But our village is so poor. Why would they even bother coming here? Bai Shui's words struck a deep chord with Zhang Shuangsua. I lay on the ground, the pain in my lower abdomen growing steadily worse. My sister-in-law noticed something was off with my expression and asked me what was wrong. Before I could say a word, Zhang Shuangsua strode over and stomped his foot on my chest. My sister-in-law gasped, Brother, have you lost your mind? Sister-in-law is injured. She doesn't deserve to be your sister-in-law. Zhang Shuangsua glared, his eyes blazing with fury. Wu Mingyang, you are such a disappointment. I already sent Dafu to stop you, and you still went and found them. Brother, what nonsense are you talking? My sister-in-law had nothing to do with bringing these bandits here. Gaddafi also ran over, his face full of remorse. That's right, Shuangsua, Mingyang definitely isn't involved with the bandits. Enough, Zhang Shuangsua roared. What has she been feeding you? How can you defend her like this? We're talking about dozens of innocent lives. Bai Shui covered her mouth. Mingyang, it was really you. Why would you do this? Are you jealous of me and Shuangsua? But I swear, there's nothing between us. We're just comrades in the revolution. Don't you dare insult a comrade in arms. The younger sister-in-law spoke up righteously. Everyone can see what you're after with my brother. You're nothing but a homewrecker. Shut your mouth. Zhang Shuangsua roared in fury, slapping his sister-in-law across the face. What did Wu Mingyang promise you to make you say such things? Don't tell me. He narrowed his eyes. Are you involved with this bandit too? The sister-in-law was beside herself with rage. Brother, what nonsense are you spouting? Do you even know who this bandit is? Captain, the two men's conversation was abruptly cut off by a pair of breathless newcomers. Someone spotted the bandits heading west, to the west. There's a mountain with treacherous terrain, and it's not far from here. With that many men in tow, they must have fled into the mountains. Zhang Shuangsua immediately shouldered his rifle. Follow me. As he was leaving, he glanced back at me. Wu Mingyang, I'll settle the score with you when I get back. Sis, don't pay him any mind. Once he sees Yan Yunqing, he'll know it wasn't you. My sister-in-law's words offered me no comfort whatsoever. The government has been searching for Yan Yunqing all these years, but they've never found him. We didn't catch him in my last life. Will we manage it in this one? A sharp pain in my abdomen cut through my thoughts, and I asked my sister-in-law to help me up. Her own leg was injured, and despite her efforts, she couldn't budge me an inch. Gaddafi, hurry up and help my sister-in-law to her feet. At my sister-in-law's command, Gaddafi came running over. He grabbed me by both arms and lifted me up. Mingyang, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. His voice trailed off the moment he saw the large, dark pool of blood on the ground. How could there be so much blood? I didn't even look to see how large the pool of blood was that had caused such shock. Because my last ounce of strength was spent, my vision went black, and I passed out. When I came to, I was already in the hospital. I was alone in the hospital room, outside. My sister-in-law was arguing with Gaddafi. My sister-in-law finally got pregnant. And you kicked her child out of her. You're a monster. Gaddafi's voice was hoarse. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I looked down at my flat stomach. Even though I had long sensed this child was gone from me, I still couldn't bring myself to accept it at that moment. Zhang Shuangsua, my sister-in-law, and we could all be called orphans. The three of us grew up relying on each other for survival. We comforted one another, yet we desperately craved the warmth of family. The day he found out I was pregnant, Zhang Shuangsua was so overjoyed he could barely get his words out. He rode his horse into town to buy me 2 gin of meat, calling me the family's greatest hero. It was the most delicious meat I have ever tasted. Back then, I truly believed this child would change the relationship between Zhang Shuangsua and me. In my past life, right after the child was born, Zhang Shuangsua took one look and gave the baby away. Ignoring my screams, he dragged me into the woods where Bai Shui died and brutally cut open my belly. The memories flooded back. the sound of the knife slicing through skin echoed in my ears. I couldn't help but shudder. "Sis, what's wrong?" My sister-in-law's voice snapped me back to reality. I looked up to see Gaddafi standing before me, his eyes red and swollen. He actually started crying. Not only that, but the next second, Gaddafi knelt down before me. "Mingyang, it's all my fault that your child was hurt. Hit me, curse me, do whatever you need to vent your anger. I'm willing to be your servant, to do anything." Gaddafi and Zhang Suasua were once classmates. He is an upright and warm-hearted person. When Zhang Shuangsua went off to join the army, he looked out for me a great deal, even during the busy farming season. He would finish the work in my family's fields before tending to his own. I have always respected him like an elder brother. Otherwise, Zhang Shuangsua wouldn't have sent him to talk sense into me. I let out a sigh. "Dafu, it's alright. I know you were just anxious. You just went about it the wrong way." Hearing me say that, Gaddafi only felt more ashamed. He immediately raised his hand and slapped himself across the face a few times. "Mingyang, please, just blame me. The more you don't, the worse I feel inside." I know, for someone with his temperament. Seeing that pool of my blood, that memory will haunt him for the rest of his life. I don't know what to say to comfort him. After all, I'm grieving too. "Dafu," I called out to him, "could you do me a favor?" "Go on. I need you to file a complaint at the county office for me," I said gravely. "Zhang Shuangsua, the captain of the Sherman village militia, has been derelict in his duties. He took his men to the movies to impress a woman, which led to the deaths of over a dozen villagers and the abduction of several women." Both Gaddafi and his sister-in-law stared wide-eyed. Just when I thought they were going to put in a good word for Zhang Shuangsua, Gaddafi gave a firm nod. "Alright, I'll go right now." After he left, the room fell silent. My sister-in-law poured me a cup of hot water. I took it and couldn't help but ask, "Shuangshu, you don't blame me, do you?" My sister-in-law answered a question with another. "Sister-in-law, do you know how I managed to stay behind?" After I left, the village women discovered she hadn't just broken her leg, there was also a long, deep gash on her back from a tree branch, oozing blood, a truly frightening sight. The village doctor took one look at her and said it wouldn't do. If things went on like this, she'd get an infection, so, risking her life, she took her sister-in-law back to her own home to treat the wound. In that very moment, the bandits forced open the main stone gate. They began searching house to house. When they searched the village doctor's house, my sister-in-law accidentally made a sound. To protect her, the village doctor rushed out. Tears streamed down my sister-in-law's face. Those beasts violated her right in front of me. She was in such agony, yet she didn't utter a single word. It was also at that moment that she saw Yen Shanqing. She spent 10 months in the Yen Mountain Green Fortress. She would recognize that face anywhere, even if it were burned to ashes. My sister-in-law trembled and sobbed in my arms. "Sister-in-law, those bandits were nothing but a ragtag mob. If my brother had brought the men back sooner, the doctor wouldn't have been defiled, and the village chief and the others wouldn't have died. You did the right thing. My brother failed in his duty." I held her close, and my own tears began to fall. My sister-in-law could see reason. It's a pity that some others couldn't. That day, Zhang Shuangsua stormed into my hospital room. "Wu Mingyang, what's the meaning of sending Gaddafi to report me to the county? Don't you know I was this close to finding those bandits?" Only then did I realize Zhang Shuangsua had been searching the mountains all day. Just as he was finally onto a lead, someone else took over the case. He was publicly reprimanded by his superior for being brainless, stripped of his position as team captain, and forbidden from having any further involvement in the matter. He and Bai Shui were unceremoniously driven down from the mountain. "What a vicious mind you have, resorting to such methods to interfere." He hauled me up from the hospital bed, looking as if he could have eaten me alive. I hadn't even spoken yet. Bai Shui walked in from outside. "Mingyang, you're being incredibly thoughtless. What you've done hasn't just ruined Shuangsua's future, you've doomed the whole village. Who else but him can find that gang of bandits?" The two of them went back and forth, laying all the blame at my feet. I let out a cold laugh. "Zhang Shuangsua, was it me who stopped you from coming back to save the villagers? Shuangshu even got down on his knees to beg you back then. Why didn't you return? Now that the higher-ups are looking for someone to blame, you're dumping it all on me. Isn't that a bit unreasonable? How dare you say that?" Zhang Shuangsua grabbed me by the throat. "If you hadn't led those bandits here, the village wouldn't be in this state. Now everyone's fate is unknown, and you have the nerve to pretend to be sick." He flung his hand away. I was thrown heavily to the ground. My tailbone hit the dirt, sending a jolt of pain shooting up my spine to the crown of my head. Just then, the younger sister-in-law rushed back. "Sister-in-law," she charged over and slapped Zhang Shuangsua right across the face. "Zhang Shuangsua, have you lost your mind? Zhang Shuangshu, you're joining in her foolishness too. Are you mixed up with those bandits as well? What the hell does your mother have to do with this? The sister-in-law snapped, her patience finally gone. Do you even know who that bandit is? That's Yan Yunqing. The moment that name was uttered, the entire room fell silent. Zhang Shuangxua froze as if a vital acupoint had been struck, his very breath ceasing. Yan Yunqing, the man who murdered all three of our parents. Even if I were involved with bandits, I would never go to this man. A few minutes later, Zhang Shuangxua's face seemed to crack open. How is that possible? It's true, the younger sister-in-law said, tears falling once more. I saw his face with my own eyes. Brother, Yan Yunqing has definitely come back for revenge. So, brother, now you see. This definitely had nothing to do with sister-in-law. My sister-in-law defended me indignantly. You should listen less to those vile people. Don't just jump to conclusions and blame her without knowing the facts. Because of this whole mess, she lost the baby, someone caused her to miscarry, and you haven't even said a single word of concern. What? Zhang Shuangxua's face went pale once more. The baby's gone. He looked at me. His eyes filled with utter disbelief. I looked down at my abdomen. It was flat again. At that moment, Bai Shui stepped forward. It's all my fault, Shuangxua. If I hadn't insisted on going to the movies, none of this would have happened. I'm the sinner here. I've harmed both of your children. The moment she started crying, Zhang Shuangxua's heart ached for her. This has nothing to do with you. If anyone's to blame, it's her for not protecting the child properly. Every word of comfort he offered Bai Shui was like a knife, plunging straight into my heart. Even my sister-in-law couldn't stand to hear it anymore. Brother, how can you say such a thing? My sister-in-law lost her child while trying to save someone. She claims it was to save someone, but who knows what she was really thinking. Zhang Shuangxua said with disgust, Wu Mingyang, you've done so many terrible things out of jealousy. Even if you didn't collude with Yan Qingshan, you're the one who brought him here. I couldn't take it anymore. Zhang Shuangxua. You keep saying I bullied Bai Shui, then tell me, what exactly did I do to her? Zhang Shuangxua took a deep breath. Since you want to dredge up the past, let me ask you this. Why did you turn all the women in the village against her? That accusation was utterly baffling. I've been racking my brains, and I still can't figure out who exactly is supposed to have been isolating her. Instead, it was my sister-in-law who piped up. Who's isolating her? She's the one who can't be bothered to talk to us women. She only likes hanging out with the guys. Shuangshu, how could you slander my good name like that? Bai Shui was clearly displeased upon hearing this. She tugged at Zhang Shuangxua's sleeve and said, Shuangxua, it seems they still don't welcome me. I should just go back. Having learned from the mistakes of her past life, Zhang Shuangxua couldn't bear the thought of letting her go alone, so he immediately offered to walk her home. But just as the two of them reached the entrance, two men in uniform blocked their path. One of them was an acquaintance of Zhang Shuangxua's. He got straight to the point. Shuangxua, where's that woman from your village? Bai Shui, we heard she came to the hospital with you. The two police officers had a very menacing look about them. Bai Shui couldn't help but tremble when she met their gaze. Zhang Shuangxua stepped in front of her and asked, weren't you up in the mountains fighting bandits? What do you want with her? We've captured Yan Yunqing, the man said excitedly. According to his underlings, the tip-off for this operation came from his mistress. His mistress is your village's women's director. Bai Shui, Zhang Shuangxua froze. You must have the wrong person. No mistake about it. He was told that Yan Yunqing and his men had intended to abduct and sell the women from our village. To their surprise, the women from our village started to fight back along the way. All of them were farm folk, and they figured since they were facing death either way, they might as well put up a fight. By the time they arrived, Yan Yunqing was nearly beaten to death by a group of men. The new recruits Yan Yunqing had taken under his wing were all cowards. They spilled everything the moment they got there, without even being asked. After his escape that year, Yan Yunqing wandered from place to place. He met Bai Shui 5 years ago. Bai Shui was drawn to the rugged, untamed air about him and was determined to marry him. Later, upon learning that Yan Yunqing was looking for us again, Bai Shui used her connections to secure a position in the government. Back then, to protect us, the organization concealed our family's information. We were given new identities and sent to Sherman village. Bai Shui searched the archives for a long time and actually managed to find all of our files. She went to great lengths to get herself transferred here to become the women's director. All along, she deliberately got close to Zhang Shuangxua, just waiting for this day so Yan Yunqing could get revenge and make a tidy profit in the process. They're about to head abroad to live it up. Upon hearing the truth, Zhang Shuangxua's legs went weak. Someone nearby steadied him. What's wrong? Zhang Shuangsua turned to Bai Shui. Is what he said true? No. I don't know any Yan Yunqing. Bai Shui shook her head vigorously. Shuangsua, you have to believe me. This could be another one of Ming Yang's traps. How could I possibly know that outlaw? I let out a cold, scornful laugh. If Zhang Shuangsua still believed her lies at this point, he was no man at all. Indeed, Zhang Shuangsua did not believe her, yet, he couldn't bring himself to accept it right away. Seizing a moment when the others were distracted, Bai Shui darted out of the room like a startled rabbit. Unfortunately, the people behind her were trained professionals. She was quickly apprehended by 2 police officers and handcuffed. Both Bai Shui and Zhang Shuangsua were taken away. The 2 of them were to be taken in for questioning. The county authorities took the case very seriously, as it involved the notorious bandit Yan Yunqing. The trial dragged on for nearly half a year. In the end, it was established that Zhang Shuangsua had been deceived and had no connection whatsoever to Yan Yunqing. Both Yan Yunqing and Bai Shui were sentenced to death. On the day Zhang Shuangsua was released, my sister-in-law and I went to pick him up. It had been a good half a year since we last met. His hair had turned white, and he was so thin he was almost unrecognizable. The man who was once so flamboyant now stood hunched over, looking utterly unsure of himself. He hadn't expected me to come and was visibly startled to see me. Ming Yang, he said, how have you been all this time? I replied. Not too bad. My sister-in-law and I took him to get cleaned up, found him a change of clothes, and then went for a meal at the state-run restaurant. During the meal, my sister-in-law sensed he had something to say to me in private and made an excuse to step outside. Ming Yang, after a long silence, Zhang Shuangsua's heavy voice finally broke through. I'm sorry, I was blinded by Bai Shui back then. I should have brought them home. None of us would have gotten hurt if I had. Ming Yang. I've done a lot of thinking these past few days. I've been remembering all sorts of things from when we were kids. How you were always so good to me. I just took that kindness for granted. I've wronged you, and I've wronged our child. From now on, I promise I'll be a proper husband to you. Let's have another baby. As he spoke, Zhang Shuangsua's eyes were bloodshot, brimming with unmistakable sincerity. After all these years of knowing him, how could I not tell his remorse was genuine? But still, I gave a faint smile and said to him, Zhang Shuangsua, let's get a divorce. Zhang Shuangsua's expression froze instantly. It took him a long moment to finally utter, no, don't, Ming Yang, I've already told you. This is all Bai Shui's scheme. If I could do it all over again, I would definitely come back to save you all. I stared at his face. We already have done it all over again, haven't we? Zhang Shuangsua's eyes widened in shock. That's right, I was reborn too. I poured myself a glass of water, so I don't need to remind you what you did to me in our previous life, do I? Zhang Shuangsua's face turned ashen. He raised a cup of water and splashed it onto his own face. He gave a bitter laugh and said, heaven is truly just, Ming Yang. In my past life, it was you I loved as well. It's just that when I found Bai Shui, I captured a remnant bandit who said you were the one behind all of this. I had long suspected as much. Zhang Shuangsua may be confused, but he's an educated man. He wouldn't kill without a reason. When it comes down to it, he just doesn't trust me. A lack of trust between husband and wife is even more terrifying than a lack of love, especially after all the years we've known each other. I asked him. My father and mother both died at the hands of bandits. Even if I, Wu Mingyang, were to starve to death, I would never collude with bandits. Zhang Shuangsua, you have truly let me down. He moved his lips slightly. In the end, he only said, I'm sorry, it's okay. I took a deep breath, because I don't plan to forgive you. In the end, I went through with the divorce from Zhang Shuangsua. After the paperwork was done, I boarded a train heading south. I'd heard the country was pushing reform and opening up there, and I was ready to try my luck. That venture lasted 5 years. I rode the wave of the times and made a small fortune. When I returned home in glory, I learned of Zhang Shuangsua's fate. He was dead. He died during the bandit suppression campaign, just like my father. Story 2. I spent my entire life with Liu Yen, bore his children, and yet he never once promised me a wedding, not even until the day he died. Among his belongings, I found a photograph he had always kept tucked in his wallet. Only then did I realize there had always been someone else in his heart. At 70, I took my own life with poison. My 2 sons watched, unmoved, as I writhed in agony under a sunshower until my last breath. Once I was gone, they had me cremated immediately, deeming it an ill omen. They didn't even keep an urn. My ashes were flushed down the crematorium's drain. My personal effects were tossed outside like trash. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the moment his cherished white moonlight showed up at our door with a child. as the father and his two sons relentlessly accused me of being heartless for refusing to take them in. I produced the divorce papers and walked out of that house for good. Little did I know that after I left, they would completely fall apart. It's because of you that my godmother is still lying in a hospital bed. Someone as cold and heartless as you. I don't want you as my mother, brother. Why are you still talking to that vicious woman? Dad's here. Hang up and come eat. The malice in that youthful voice was impossible to hide. Listening to the dial tone, I stared at my reflection in the mirror for a long time before I realized it. I had been reborn. I was 27 again. And it was the third day since Gu Zhao had shown up at my door with her daughter. Gu Zhao was Lu Yan's first love, his unforgettable muse. She had vanished from the capital 7 years ago without a trace, only to reappear before Lu Yan just the day before yesterday, covered in wounds and with her daughter in tow. Lu Yan wanted to take her to the hospital, but she absolutely refused to go. Left with no other choice, Lu Yan let her stay at our house without even consulting me. I was afraid of Lu Yan, and I also felt sorry for the injured Gu Zhao, so I didn't say anything. But when I came back from hand-washing Lu Yan's and our two sons' undergarments, I found Gu Zhao actually sleeping in my and Lu Yan's marital bed. Her daughter even called me an idiot. I am the heiress of the Jiang group, and Lu Yan is my childhood groom. My mother fell seriously ill while she was pregnant with me. I was born prematurely, and my intellectual development has been somewhat slower than average since birth. When my mother was alive, she patiently taught me how to express myself. But Lu Yan never liked listening to me. The moment I started speaking, impatience would flash in his eyes. After that, I tried my best to stay silent around him. After my mother passed away, he became even more unwilling to hear me out. Over time, I lost all sense of how to communicate with him. When my emotions finally boiled over, I could only resort to screaming and shouting. That day, in a fit of rage, I frantically drove them out. Lu Yan called me unreasonable and left with them. He still hasn't returned, taking my two children, Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu, with him. Today is my and Lu Yan's 7th wedding anniversary. In my past life, I cooked a whole table of dishes that the father and his two sons loved. I had planned to call them home, hoping it would be a gesture of reconciliation, but my son's words cut me so deep that, in a daze, I stumbled, fell, and cracked my head open. In that previous life, I couldn't understand why the child I carried for 10 months and raised with such hardship refused to call me mom, yet so readily called a woman he'd known for only 3 days godmother. Now I understand. Bad seed breeds bad seed. In my past life, it was only after Lu Yan's death that I discovered Gu Chao was his first love, and even Gu Chao's daughter was his. Because of my unique circumstances, my mother always felt she owed me. After my father died in a car accident, fearing I'd be left unprotected and taken advantage of after her own death, she adopted Lu Yan from an orphanage. Her initial plan was to find me an assistant, but after witnessing Lu Yan's remarkable talents, she changed her mind and decided to raise him as my future husband. My mother often told me that Lu Yan would be my husband one day, my sole pillar of support, and encouraged me to spend more time with him to nurture our relationship. After that, I became Lu Yan's shadow. Lu Yan was exceptionally intelligent. He followed a special elite education track and joined the Jiang group early to help his mother manage the company. Gu Zhao was his good little sister from the orphanage. After he joined the Jiang group, he pulled some strings to have her specially hired as his secretary, right under my and my mother's noses. They began a secret affair. Lu Yan hates me for coming between him and Gu Zhao. I will never forget the look in his eyes as he lay dying. His gaze towards me had always been cold and indifferent, but in that final moment, even someone as dense as I was could feel the bone-chilling hatred in his eyes. He said, "Jiangli, I had wanted to treat you well, like a sister, but you tore me from my true love for years, made my own home a place I could not return to. When I die, you deserve to burn in hell." At the time, I didn't understand what he meant. After all, in my mind, we were husband and wife. That meant we were each other's true love, and our home was with one another. The full truth only dawned on me when I found Gu Zhao's photo in his wallet, when I was still reeling from his loss and Gu Zhao herself threw me out of our home, and when I learned he had left all our assets to his illegitimate daughter with Gu Zhao. It turned out he had always loved Gu Zhao. His revenge began the moment she left him, on his mother's deathbed, to fulfill her dying wish. He married me and promised to take care of me for the rest of my life. After that, he sweet-talked me into having one child after another, consuming all my energy and focus on motherhood, leaving me no time for anything else, let alone the affairs of the company. I was completely in the dark about when he changed the company's legal representative and when he transferred all the assets. After his death, I truly did as he wished, take a walk through hell. But as for his claim that I came between him and Gu Chao, I had absolutely no knowledge of that. Lu Yan is 2 years older than me. He was already helping our mother manage the company while I was still in school. I only met Gu Zhao once, by chance, when I went to see him. Back then, I thought Gu Zhao was even more clumsy than I was. He could burn his own hand just making a cup of coffee for Lu Yan, and he'd even trip and fall right into Lu Yan's arms while walking. I stopped falling over once I learned how to walk. As for making coffee, my hands are perfectly steady when I hold a cup. I just couldn't understand back then. Why was it that when we were both clumsy, Lu Yan would dote on Gu Zhao, treating him with such tenderness and care, yet be so full of impatience with me? I confided my doubts to my mother, saying I thought Lu Yan probably disliked me, just like everyone else. My mother comforted me, telling me it wasn't true and not to overthink it. But after that, I never saw Gu Zhao again, that is, until she returned 3 days ago, when both parties still have feelings for each other. Rekindling an old flame is inevitable. Leaves by the roadside thrashed wildly in the gale, under a gloomy sky split by flashes of lightning and the rumble of thunder. Gripping the steering wheel, I still felt a sense of unreality, as if in a daze. My hand went instinctively to my stomach. If my memory served me right, I should be pregnant with Cece at this very moment. In my past life, after my 3 children and I were cast out, Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu stayed with me for only 2 years before they couldn't take it anymore and went back to their godmother, Gu Zhao. Only my youngest daughter, Cece, remained by my side. I may not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but I refused to let anyone else lay claim to the inheritance my mother left for me. I consulted numerous lawyers, but Lu Yan had already put the word out to all the major firms before he died. Not a single one dared to take on the case. I even sought help from lawyers in other provinces. They told me that, as an illegitimate daughter, I technically had inheritance rights, but the case was nearly impossible to win. I burned through more than half of the emergency fund my mother had set aside for me, and still, I couldn't secure a victory. Without a home, securing school placements for my 3 children became a real problem. Property in the capital is astronomically expensive. With the money I had left, buying a place there was out of the question. On top of that, the children's education would cost a fortune, so I had no choice but to take them to a remote, backwater town. That's where I bought a house and settled down. Job opportunities in that small town were scarce. Being older and a single mother, I faced rejection at every turn. The one thing I had going for me was my decent looks. In the end, I found work as a waitress at a nightclub. In the eyes of others, being a waitress is a lowly job. In the eyes of my 2 sons, I became lowly too. Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu thought that working at a nightclub meant I was a prostitute, and their disgust towards me grew. The contempt in their eyes was exactly the same as Lu Yan's. One day, I came home after my night shift and couldn't find the 3 children. I was frantic with worry. I checked the security footage and saw Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu dragging Cece into a taxi. Just as I was breaking down in tears from panic, a kind stranger brought Cece back. Even though she was crying her little heart out, she still wrapped her soft, small body around me to comfort me, saying, "Mom, if my brothers don't want us, then we don't want them either. Cece will always stay by your side. Cece is my treasure, my guiding light, and my salvation." Although we lost the lawsuit, the public outcry over Lu Yan leaving all his assets to his illegitimate daughter was fierce, causing a significant impact on the Jiang family's stock prices. To curry favor with Gu Zhao, Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu, upon their return, collaborated with him to smear my reputation in the media. They called me a homewrecker, claiming my mother used her influence to force Lu Yan to marry me and tear them apart. Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu even alleged that I sold my body at nightclubs for money, came home drunk to abuse them, and then displayed my bruised arms and chest in front of the cameras. No one would suspect a child of lying or slandering their own mother so viciously. After that incident, everyone who had been on my side defected to Gu Zhao's camp. Together, they condemned me relentlessly, both online and off. During that time, I was treated like a sewer rat, despised and hounded by everyone. Those people tracked down my home, spray-painted the door, and left funeral wreaths and all sorts of terrifying dolls. Even my daughter faced constant bullying and exclusion at school. During that time, I couldn't sleep night after night. My hands would tremble uncontrollably. I had constant ringing in my ears, and tears would just flow without warning. I couldn't see any point in living. Once, I was standing on the balcony, and if Cece hadn't pulled me back, I might have really jumped. Cece was terrified by it all. It was as if she grew up overnight. She wouldn't leave my side for a moment, cooked for me, And even learned to call the police when those people came to our house again. She shielded me, protecting me like a mother hen guards her chicks. Cece is my angel, holding the 2-week pregnancy test results in my hand. I touched my belly, tears of joy welling up in my eyes. In my past life, I didn't discover I was pregnant with Cece until a month later. After Lu Yan sweet-talked me a bit, I agreed to let Gu Chao and her daughter, Song Yu, move into our villa. While I was out, Song Yu smashed the photoshopped wedding photo of Lu Yan and me that I'd had made. I was so enraged I started bleeding and nearly miscarried. Not only did Lu Yan refuse to blame them, he even accused me of making a mountain out of a molehill and picking on a child. I will never forget the smug and vicious looks on the faces of Gu Chao and Song Yu, mother and son, as they drove me out of the room. In my past life, under Lu Yan's protection and with the wealth he left behind, they thrived and showed no mercy, hunting me and Cece down to the very end. In this life, it's their turn to go to hell. When I got back from the hospital, the lights were on in the villa. I frowned slightly, certain I'd turned the lights off before leaving for my checkup. Could Mrs. Wu have come back? I parked the car, opened my umbrella, and made my way through the pouring rain toward the front door. As soon as I reached the entrance, I saw Lu Yan standing there. A crisply ironed shirt was layered under a black waistcoat, accentuating a trim waist, while the legs beneath the black trousers were long and straight. His features were sharp and finely chiseled, with a prominent brow bone. His dark eyes held a distant, aloof gaze tinged with a hint of gloom and chill. He leaned against the doorframe, just watching me. I hadn't expected him to come back. In my past life, even though he came back today, it was only because I begged him to. The night my father died in the car crash, it was also storming with thunder and lightning. Ever since his death, I've had a deep-seated fear of thunder. The condition Lu Yan set for agreeing to come back was that Gu Chao and Song Yu move in. I agreed. But in this life, I don't know why Lu Yan came back, and frankly, I don't want to know. I averted my gaze, closed my umbrella, gave it a shake to dislodge the water droplets, and hung it up. Just as I was about to step past him into the villa, he grabbed my arm. Where have you been? His voice was flat, giving away no emotion. I couldn't be bothered to talk to him and tried to pull my hand free, but his grip was too tight. I looked up and rolled my eyes at him. If you're not going to use your eyes, you might as well donate them. In my past life, right up until his death, I never dared to be insolent in front of him, always carefully and diligently trying to win his favor. Lu Yan was clearly taken aback for a moment, his gaze instinctively shifting to the bandage on my forehead. Seizing the moment he was distracted, I slipped my arm free and went inside. Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu were playing with toy cars in the children's play area. Hearing the noise, they both turned to glance at me, let out a simultaneous snort of contempt, and turned their heads away in unison. I glanced at the toy car and recognized it instantly. It was the one Gu Chao had bought for them. Having no experience as a parent myself, I simply mirrored how my own parents had raised me, giving them the very best of everything. The one Gu Chao gave them wasn't even as good as the cheapest one I ever bought for them, yet they were absolutely obsessed with that car. In my past life, I once tidied the playroom. When they couldn't find it, they hit and screamed at me, demanding to know what right I had to touch the things their godmother gave them. At dinner, they even threw a bowl at me. Even though it all happened in a past life, the memory still makes my heart ache with a sharp, uncontrollable pang. I took a moment to steady myself, then crouched down to change my shoes. I just got back and was so eager to prove Cece's existence that I haven't eaten yet. I'm getting a bit hungry now. After putting my bag away, I headed to the kitchen. Just as I was plating the food, I heard Lu Yan's voice. Lu Qian, Lu Ziyu, come and eat. I just ate a lot at my godmother's. I'm not hungry, Lu Yan said sternly. Come here. When I came out carrying the dishes, I saw Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu trudging reluctantly into the dining room, still holding their remote controls for the toy cars. Without a word, I set the dishes down, served myself some rice, and began to eat. Outside, thunder rumbled. The father and his two sons watched Jiangli eating alone, their expressions subtle and complex. Even Lu Ziyu, who was usually engrossed in his racing game, loosened his grip on the remote control. You have to understand, in the past, I was the one who always served them their rice and coaxed them into eating the vegetables they disliked. After a long silence, Lu Yan got up and went to the kitchen. When he returned, his expression was grim. He said to Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu, both of you, go to your rooms. Lu Qian was somewhat displeased. I still want to play with the race car our godmother bought us. Go to your room. Seeing the stern look in Lu Yan's eyes, the two of them climbed down from their dining chairs and went back to their room. After the two children had left, Lu Yan sat down opposite me, his dark eyes fixed on me. In the past, Whenever Lu Yan stared at me like that, I would feel anxious and uneasy, like a child who had done something wrong. Wondering what I might have messed up this time, but now, under his gaze, my appetite was so good that I went for a second helping of rice. In my past life, after he left all the property to Gu Zhao and her daughter, I had been scrimping and saving for so long, I hadn't had such a lavish dinner in ages. Just as I wiped my mouth, I heard Lu Yan say, Gu Chao is being discharged from the hospital tomorrow. She doesn't have many friends in the capital. And it would be inconvenient for her to stay elsewhere. I've asked Mrs. Wu to clear out a guest room. I tossed the tissue in my hand aside and cut him off. The guest room is too cramped. I'll give up the master bedroom. You can handle the rest. The master bedroom is the marital suite I shared with Lu Yan. The moment I finished speaking, Lu Yan's words died on his lips. A flicker of disbelief surfaced in his eyes. As if he couldn't trust his own ears. What did you just say? Perhaps realizing his own lapse in composure, Lu Yan quickly collected himself, frowning with impatience. He said, Gu Chao was in the wrong last time, I'll admit that, but she's always been naive, she didn't think it through, you don't need to keep harping on it, she's staying with us, she doesn't eat much, she's injured and raising a child all on her own, it's not easy, Jiangli, since when have you become so heartless? I didn't think that much about it, heartless, I sneered. Handle Gu Chao's matter however you see fit, there's no need to discuss it with me. With that, I stood up and walked away. A loud crash sounded behind me, followed by Lu Yan's voice, gritted through clenched teeth, Jiangli, you're just wonderful. I turned to look at him, his face was ashen, he had smashed his teacup on the table. And there were several cuts on his porcelain white hand, perhaps noticing my gaze on his hand, a flicker of something I couldn't decipher, hope, perhaps, shone in those deep, dark eyes. I didn't understand, nor did I bother trying to guess his thoughts, but seeing him lose his composure filled me with a dark sense of satisfaction. Suddenly, I thought I understood why Lu Yan had condemned me to hell in his past life. Watching someone you despise suffer. Seeing them in agony, it truly is a vicious kind of pleasure. I went back to the master bedroom and began moving my things, piece by piece, down to the guest room on the first floor. Lu Yan stood at the top of the stairs, watching me make trip after trip, looking at the pair of pillows on the marital bed. For some reason, my nose stung fiercely. To be fair, Lu Yan had his good moments with me, too. He knew I was afraid of thunder. Whenever a storm rolled in, he would hold me close and soothe me in a gentle voice, saying, I'm here, don't be afraid, go to sleep. Since my parents passed away, I've received so little love that I remember every single kindness shown to me. Deep down, I know, no one likes a fool, not even my own 2 sons, who I carried for 10 months and share my blood with. They don't like me, they look down on me, that's why they've never been willing to call me mom. I sniffled and pulled my own pillow away. Just as I reached the doorway, Lu Yan blocked my path, standing squarely in the entrance. His gaze fell on the silk pillow in my hands, his voice as detached as ever. If you move out today, don't expect to come back to the master bedroom, I said. Fine. His face instantly darkened. He stood in the doorway, motionless. I didn't move either. It wasn't a standoff, he was simply blocking my way. After a long silence, he seemed to yield, his tone a mixture of resignation and concession. Fine, you win. I'll book her a hotel room outside, with your temper. And Gu Chao being so naive and sensitive, who knows how you'd bully her the moment I'm gone. I stared at him for a long moment. Instinctively, I wanted to say something, but in the end, I kept my mouth shut. He wouldn't move, so I just hugged my pillow and squeezed past him. Just as I reached the top of the stairs, I heard Lu Yan's voice, thick with suppressed anger. Jiangli, my patience is wearing thin, know your limits. I didn't answer or look back, I just picked up my pillow and went downstairs. By the time I finished tidying the guest room, it was already past 2 in the morning. Lying in bed, I remembered something and got up to go to the kitchen, anticipating that Lu Yan might come into the kitchen to get the dishes. I had already mixed all their favorite foods into one container beforehand, knowing his temperament. He wouldn't touch it after that. The food had gone a bit cold, so I warmed it up in the microwave before bringing it out. This is a high-end villa community. The property management is extremely strict. Not even a mouse could get in here. Holding an umbrella, I walked over to the garbage station, stopped in front of a few wooden planks, and called out, Xiao Bai. Soon after, a white dog came out, wagging its tail, its chest hung low, clearly indicating it was in a nursing period. The rain outside was so heavy that its fur was a bit wet. It shook its whole body and looked at me happily with a wide grin. I placed the box on the ground and opened it. Xiao Bai caught the scent and came over to eat. The heavy rain pattered against my umbrella, watching Xiaobai eat with such delight. I felt a moment of inner peace. I've always loved dogs, but Lu Yan didn't. Gu Chao liked cats, so he preferred them too. I brought up the idea of getting a dog twice, but he never agreed. Later, with the pregnancy and having a baby, the idea of getting a pet was put aside. In my past life, after Cece graduated and got busy with work, she bought me a little Pomeranian to keep me company. A small dog doesn't need frequent walks, so it won't tire me out, and it can still keep me company. It had been my companion for nearly a decade, but Lu Ziyu killed it by smashing it against the ground. When Cece was 40, she fell gravely ill. The doctors said she wouldn't last 3 years. Fearing I'd have no one to care for me in my old age after she was gone, she went to see Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu. She threatened to expose how they had framed me all those years ago if they refused to support me, to show the world how these so-called entrepreneurs treated their own mother. That day, Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu stormed into our home in a rage. Xiao Ba, sensing their hostility, barked at them a few times. In response, Lu Ziyu picked up Xiao Ba and killed it right in front of us by hurling it to the floor. Cece and I were terrified that day. After witnessing their cruelty, Cece didn't dare bring up the matter of them supporting me again. She just held me and cried, asking what would become of me after she was gone. Truth be told, I'd long since lost the will to live. I just couldn't bear to leave Cece. The year I turned 70, Cece passed away from illness. Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu, afraid of public censure, rushed back on the day of her burial. After handling Cece's funeral arrangements, I had a full meal. Then, holding her favorite stuffed toy, I sat on the rocking chair in the yard, basking in the sun. Once I was warmed through, I took the sleeping pills I'd been saving for so long and swallowed them all with cold water. A sharp, stabbing pain twisted in my gut. The moment I closed my eyes, a sudden downpour erupted from a clear sky. Cece was always terrified of me catching a chill. The slightest drop in temperature, and she'd bundle me up in layers. I was afraid she'd still worry if I went down there, so I struggled to climb back, but it was just a rocking chair. I exhausted all my strength and couldn't get up. As I lay sprawled on the ground in a sorry state, Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu walked through the rain, black umbrellas in hand. I begged them, pleaded with them to help me into the house. They were unmoved by my pleas, just watching coldly as I struggled in the sunshower. The sunlight stung my eyes, the cold rain stole my warmth, and all my thoughts were scattered by the wind. I snapped back to reality, wiped the tears from my face, and only after watching Xiaobai eat and drink his fill did I head back. The next day, I got up at the crack of dawn. First, I went to see my parents, then I flew to Haishur, and didn't get back until evening. As soon as I reached the front door, I could hear the sounds of laughter and merriment coming from inside the villa. Gu Chao was wearing a white dress, her hair styled in a very ladylike manner. She looked gentle and serene, but the bandages of various sizes covering her body gave her an air of extreme fragility, making one's heart ache with pity at the sight. She was the first to notice me. Perhaps out of sheer surprise, she choked on her food. Seeing this, Lu Yan naturally reached over to pat her back. His eyes were filled with helpless affection, though he feigned a tone of mild scolding as he said, "You're a grown adult now, how can you still be so careless when you eat?" Meanwhile, Lu Ziyu immediately stood up to fetch her a glass of water, saying obediently, "Here, godmother, have some water." Watching this harmonious scene before me, I felt a little dazed. It was as if they were the real family. You have to understand, Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu never even said thank you to me, let alone poured me a glass of water. And as for Lu Yan, if I so much as choked on my food, he'd just look at me with disdain. After drinking the water, Gu Chao looked at me timidly, her eyes full of caution. Sensing her gaze, everyone in the room turned their eyes toward me. The cheerful chatter and laughter came to an abrupt halt. Lu Yan's gentle, doting expression froze into ice the moment he saw me, his face instantly darkening. Those pitch-black eyes swept over my face once before indifferently looking away. As he continued to serve soup for Gu Chao, the two sons snorted coldly before turning their heads away. Just when everyone was ignoring me, Gu Zhao was the one who stood up. She walked over to me and said softly, "You're back, sis. Brother Yan made some dishes. Let's eat together." The way she said it was exactly like when you visit someone's house. They happen to be eating, and the host says, "Join us for a bite." Having grown up in an orphanage, Lu Yan naturally knew how to cook, but ever since he came to the Jiang household, he never once cooked a meal, let alone one for me. And now, the first meal he prepares is for Gu Zhao. I glanced at the table. Not a single dish was to my liking. Seeming to read my thoughts, Gu Zhao spoke up apologetically, "Sorry, sis, we didn't think you were coming back tonight, so." I just glanced at them before heading straight into the guest room. I put my bag down and went to soak in the bathtub. After a long, tiring day, lying in the tub was pure bliss, every pore relaxed, and I started to feel pleasantly drowsy. When I came out after washing up, I saw Lu Yan standing on the balcony smoking. I had no idea how long he'd been there, but the whole room reeked of cigarette smoke, and I instinctively frowned, hearing the noise. He turned to look at me. He didn't say a word, just stared at me with a scrutinizing gaze. I went back into the bathroom and put my bra back on before coming out again. Neither of us spoke. As I was tidying up the clothes I had changed out of, Lu Yan's icy voice cut through the silence from behind me. Jiangli, aren't you going to explain yourself? I stopped what I was doing and looked at him, perplexed. Explain what? Perhaps my gaze was too indifferent. He looked at me, and his previously sullen face stiffened for a moment. After a long pause, he finally spoke, his tone awkward. Ziyu and Qian were almost late for school today. I gave a cold laugh and looked at him, saying, so you're blaming me for not waking them up today, not making them breakfast, and not taking them to school. Before he could speak again, I continued, Lu Yan, they're not just my children, I get tired too, you know. Perhaps my tone was too sharp, or perhaps it was the first time I had ever admitted to being tired in front of him. Lu Yan was taken aback, his thin lips parted and then closed again. It was a long moment before he finally spoke. From now on, had the driver take them to and from school. I murmured in agreement, then, remembering something, added, I'm going to be very busy from now on. As for the children, I need you to take more of an interest. Jiang Li's words felt like a special kind of instruction, stirring an inexplicable unease in Lu Yan. Jiang Li, what's really going on with you? I didn't say anything more. I averted my gaze, picked up the laundry basket, and headed to the laundry room. When I got back, Lu Yan was still in my room. He was leaning against the glass balcony railing, a cigarette held between his slender fingers. Secondhand smoke is bad for the baby. Thinking of Cece in my belly, I finally spoke up. I don't like the smell of smoke. He paused, walked over to the coffee table, and stubbed out his cigarette. Seeing he had no intention of leaving, I said, is there anything else? He looked at me for a long moment and said, I'm going on a business trip to Country J the day after tomorrow. When I heard Country J, I was taken aback. In my past life, he also went on a business trip to Japan, but it was 3 months later. That time, Gu Zhao deliberately provoked me. I lost control and slapped her a few times, which Lu Yan witnessed. Furious, Lu Yan slapped me hard across the face. He then took Gu Zhao and Song Yu to Japan for 2 months, where they slept together. After returning, Lu Yan remained chaste for Gu Zhao's sake, cutting off all intimate contact with me. Fearing I might bully Gu Zhao again, he secretly bought an apartment for her and her daughter in the exorbitantly expensive capital city, Jing. I only learned all this after his death. As Lu Yan spoke, a flicker of anticipation seemed to glimmer in his dark eyes. He must be thrilled to finally be rid of a burden like me and live it up freely with the one he loves. I heard that Country J even has the grandest and most beautiful meteor showers. I clenched my fist and let out a faint, hollow "oh." After I responded, his reaction was a bit odd, and he added, it'll probably take about a month. In my past life, his assistant had also said it would take a month, but to keep Gu Chao happy, he kept putting it off. I murmured in acknowledgement, then remembered something and said, if you're taking Gu Chao and Song Yu, you'll have to handle Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu yourself. I might not be able to look after them. Lu Yan stared at me in disbelief after hearing what I said. Why on earth would I take Gu Chao and Song Yu? His retort caught me off guard, and I was momentarily speechless. Wasn't he planning to take Gu Chao and Song Yu with him? Before I could even process it, I heard Lu Yan continue. And what do you mean by handle Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu yourself? I can't deal with them, Jiang Li. What exactly are you trying to do? Are you trying to get a divorce? His dark eyes stared straight into mine, as if searching for something, or as if scrutinizing me. I pressed my lips together and said nothing. Just then, Lu Ziyu suddenly burst in, wrapping his arms around Lu Yan's leg and pleading, Dad, I want to go to Japan too. Can you take me and my brother, and godmother, and sister Yaya? Ziyu's words felt like a knife, plunging into my heart and twisting. All these years, I've been a full-time mother, giving them my all, only to be met with their disrespect, disregard, and contempt. I don't understand where I went wrong. My eyes grew hot with unshed tears, and the last shred of familial bond in my heart snapped clean in that moment. I clenched my fists, struggling to keep my voice steady. Ziyu and Qian are doing well in their studies, and a trip to Japan won't set them back. If they want to go, we should take them along. Lu Yan was silent for a long moment, then looked at me and said, "Jiangli, are you serious?" I nodded. He gave a cold laugh and said, "Jiangli, you'll regret this." With that, he grabbed Lu Ziyu's arm and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. On the day they left for Country J, I personally saw them off at the airport, just before boarding. Gu Zhao looked at me with a gaze that was both smug and pitiful, and said, "Sis, I heard the meteor shower in Country J is especially beautiful. You mentioned wanting to see it before, right? It's a shame you're not coming this time, but don't worry, I'll take lots of photos for you." Telling Gu Zhao I wanted to see a meteor shower was already 7 years ago. It was when we first met. She was bringing coffee for me and Lu Yan, wearing high heels, and she accidentally twisted her ankle and fell right into his arms. Seeing how clumsy she was at everything, I pegged her as my kind of person and ended up telling her everything. Lu Yan was there too. At the time, I never would have thought that after all these years, Gu Chao still remembered me saying I loved watching meteor showers. "Oh, and don't worry, sis, I'll take good care of Brother Yan." When she said this, she deliberately emphasized the words, "take good care of." I pretended not to notice her provocation, letting out a dejected "hmm." She, of course, grew even more excited. What Gu Zhao didn't know was that while she was excited, I was thrilled too. I had originally thought the divorce would take at least another 6 months. But with Lu Yan's sudden business trip to Country J, it seems the timeline can be moved up, and hearing Gu Zhao personally say "take care of" just now put my mind even more at ease. As soon as they boarded the plane, I hurriedly gave Lawyer Zhang a call. Perhaps the excitement in my voice was too obvious, as a light chuckle came from the other end, followed by a woman's voice, slightly lower than usual. "All right, I'll make the arrangements for Country J right away." With the business concluded, I asked her, "When are you arriving in Beijing?" "Around 5 in the afternoon." "Alright, I'll come pick you up when you get here." After hanging up and leaving the airport, I had the driver take me to the office. The last time I went to Haishur, I was specifically there to see Attorney Zhang. In her past life, her law firm rose to become a top 10 firm in the industry. It focused on serving women, helping thousands escape their dire circumstances. Even at 70, though she had stepped back from the front lines, she remained a formidable force in the business world. That year, Cece fell gravely ill, the medical bills drained all our savings, and she wanted to give up on treatment. I was at the end of my rope. After seeing her in the news, I flew to Haishur and waited for her for nearly a month. She finally met with me, listened to my story, and came out of retirement to take on my case. Given the case was so old, with no solid evidence, and Lu Yan's maneuvers were all above board, she poured immense effort into it and managed to win back 20 million for us. While 20 million was a drop in the bucket for the Jiang Group back then, for us, it was a lifeline. In the courtroom, watching her, hair silvered but still commanding the room, I felt nothing but admiration. I truly wanted to become someone like her. I'm familiar with Attorney Zhang's past. From a young age, Attorney Zhang witnessed her mother being subjected to domestic violence by her father. Her mother wanted a divorce but was unable to obtain one for various reasons, ultimately leading to her death from the abuse. However, she was just a child at the time, fearing she would have no one to care for her. Relatives from both sides signed a letter of understanding, which prevented her father from being sent to prison. Her father treated her poorly. He even accepted money from an old bachelor to arrange a marriage for her. She managed to escape on her own. Later, when she became a lawyer, the first person she personally sent to prison was her own father. Both she and Lu Yan fought their way up from the bottom, yet their paths were fundamentally different. Lu Yan had the backing of the Jiang family, while she relied solely on herself. There was an unbreakable resilience about her, a toughness that nothing could defeat. Lu Yan's assistant, Chen Qing, wasn't surprised by my audit of the company's accounts. After all, I do it every year. Before my mother passed away, she instructed me to review the company's financial statements and assets every year. I've always kept her words in mind and have done so annually. However, the company's financial reports were largely uneventful each year, so much so that in my past life, I had no idea when Lu Yan had siphoned off the assets. But Attorney Zhang spotted the issue right away. She flipped through the ledger a few times, frowned, and said, "Looking at this is pointless. Have the finance department bring over the internal books." I was stunned. Internal books? Attorney Zhang's brow furrowed even deeper. "You didn't even know your company keeps 2 sets of books, and your husband only ever showed you this one." I gave a slow, somewhat dazed nod. Some companies keep 2 sets of books. The external accounts are for public view, while only the highest-ranking executives have access to the internal ledgers. The Jiang Group's main business is in new energy vehicles. Under Lu Yan's management in recent years, It has broken into the industry's top 50, even based on those external accounts. Its annual profits are close to 10 billion. When Chen Qing heard me say I wanted to see the internal books, he froze for a moment. His gaze shifted to Attorney Zhang, filled with wariness. Then, I heard him say in a strictly professional tone, "Madam, to review the internal accounts requires Mr. Lu's authorization. He is currently still in flight. I will inform him the moment he lands." I let out a cold laugh. What? As the chairman of the board, I don't even have the authority to look at the company's internal books. Chen Qing handled the situation with ease. "You certainly have the authority, madam, but the group." Before he could finish, I immediately called the head of the finance department on the internal line. It took lawyer Zhang, his team, and me nearly 2 weeks to complete the inventory of the company's assets. Lu Yan hasn't called me since that one time, the day I audited the internal accounts, when he phoned me and absolutely blew his top. On social media, though, I often see him attending various business galas and banquets with Gu Zhao. Gu Zhao holds his arm, beaming like a flower. They look like the perfect match, a real power couple. In his free time, he takes Gu Zhao and the 3 kids out on trips. He's taken them to see meteor showers, making wishes under a sky full of shooting stars. In the past, seeing photos like these would have broken my heart. I would have called him, trying every trick in the book to get him to come back, but now, I'm not particularly moved. In fact, I'm starting to think Gu Chao is rather useless. It's been over half a month, and there's still no progress between them. Apart from that moment they held hands at the banquet, the detectives Zhang hired have hardly captured any other intimate gestures. Even the surveillance the detectives installed in Lu Yan and Gu Chao's hotel suite hasn't caught them doing anything improper. After arriving at the hotel, Lu Yan would stare at his phone for about 20 minutes, as if waiting for a message or a call from someone. I don't know what's going through his head. His lover is right beside him, yet he still has the mind to think of other things. Just like that, over 20 days had passed without any sign of movement from them. Just as I was getting desperate enough to consider some underhanded scheme, the 2 of them finally made progress. Gu Chao helped the thoroughly drunk Lu Yan into his room. Lawyer Zhang stared at the scene on the monitor, fell silent for a long moment, and then said to me, "Maybe you should step back for a moment. After all, seeing someone you once loved, it would probably be hard to watch." I shook my head, my eyes fixed on the 2 figures on the screen. The moment the hotel door clicked shut, Lu Yan pinned Gu Chao against it and kissed him. On camera, Gu Chao was visibly taken aback for a moment before responding with fervor. Like a spark to tinder, they were locked in a passionate, inseparable kiss. By the time they reached the bedside, their clothes were already strewn across the floor. At the critical moment, Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu inexplicably appeared outside Lu Yan's door. I had just thought, this is bad, when Lu Qian swiped his card and entered. Upon seeing the 2 of them naked and entangled, they both started shouting. Lu Yan was jolted awake by a sharp noise. He immediately pushed Gu Zhao away and scrambled to find his clothes. Lu Qian ran into the corridor and called me. I hesitated for a long moment before swiping to answer. Through the receiver, his voice was tinged with a helpless sob. It was the first time I'd ever heard him call me Mom so directly. "Mom, you need to come to Country J right now. Get on a flight immediately." I stared at the computer screen and asked flatly, "What's wrong?" Lu Qian was already crying on the other end of the line, stammering through sobs. "Dad, and that awful woman," they were hugging each other, naked. "You have to come right now. That awful woman." I never imagined the day would come when Lu Qian would call his beloved godmother a bad woman. Lu Yan, dressed in a pure white robe, came out into the hotel corridor to soothe the crying Lu Qian. But the child wouldn't let him get close. Meanwhile, in the room, Lu Ziyu was kicking and punching a naked Gu Zhao, who reached out in a desperate attempt to restrain him. In the high-definition footage, Gu Zhao's pale neck was covered in a dense patchwork of love bites. Watching this whole farce unfold, I said, "What are you talking about? You must be mistaken. I'm busy. I have to go. Have fun." With that, I hung up the phone, turned to lawyer Zhang, and asked, "Does this count as evidence?" Seeing lawyer Zhang nod, I let out a heavy sigh of relief. Roughly half an hour later, another of Lu Yan's personal assistants arrived and took Lu Ziyu and Lu Qian away. Lu Yan walked in and saw Gu Chao in disheveled clothes. Whatever was said between them, Gu Chao's face was a picture of grievance. After Gu Chao left, Lu Yan sat down on the leather sofa. His reaction wasn't what I had expected. He probably hadn't cooled off yet. As he looked utterly dejected, he picked up the cigarette again. Lit it, but didn't smoke it. He just held it between his fingers, his dark eyes fixed motionlessly on the phone on the table, as if awaiting some kind of judgment. Perhaps because there were no outsiders, He no longer bothered to conceal his emotions. As time passed, I could sense his unease and agitation. The cigarette between his fingers gradually burned down with the passing time. Lu Yan raised his hand almost numbly, stubbed out the nearly spent cigarette in the ashtray. Then let his hand drop limply. Those eyes, usually so sharp, were now filled with confusion, anxiety, and a profound sense of despair. A long time later, he called me. I didn't answer. He called 5 times in a row, and I didn't pick up once. Suddenly, a message from him popped up on WeChat. Jiangli, answer the phone. Now that I had the evidence, I couldn't be bothered to talk to him. I just blocked his number and contact outright. He tried calling again, then sent a text. He must have realized I'd blocked him, because he flew into a rage and smashed his phone on the ground, shattering it to pieces. I noticed a red notification. When I tapped it, I saw a selfie from Gu Zhao. The hickey was clearly visible, with a caption that read, "Big Brother has no mercy at all." One look told me she had set the post to visible to me only. In my past life, she often pulled this kind of stunt, posting many friends-only moments that were visible only to me. When I took screenshots to confront Gu Chao and Lu Yan, Gu Chao claimed I had hired someone to Photoshop them. He even said that if I couldn't tolerate her, she would just leave, and there was no need to tarnish her reputation. Lu Yan believed him and then turned around to accuse me of being vicious. I had no interest in paying any more attention to Lu Yan's moods. I turned off my phone and immediately started drafting the divorce agreement with attorney Zhang. I guess even the heavens looked down on that scumbag Lu Yan. The very next day, on his way back from what was supposed to be his final business deal, he got into a car accident. The car smashed through the guardrail and plunged into the river. Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu were frantic, as this was the first time they'd faced such a major crisis. They called me over and over, but I ignored every single call. After being rescued, Lu Yan remained in a coma at the hospital for a week. Just as I was regretting not having bought him insurance, Lu Yan woke up. After regaining consciousness, he seemed dazed, as if the impact had addled his brain. He just stared blankly at the ceiling, ignoring Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu when they tried to speak to him. Lu Qian was so frantic he called me again, but I didn't answer. When the doctor came to examine him, he remained motionless in that position, as if he were dead. I returned from a meeting and got a call from the detective, saying Lu Yan had suddenly ripped out his foreline and vanished. I reviewed the surveillance footage from before Lu Yan's disappearance. He roughly pulled the needle from his hand and left it untreated. Blood flowed from the back of his hand down to his fingertips, dripping onto the floor. Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu called me again, and even his assistant tried to get through. I was so annoyed that I just set my phone to automatically block all calls from Country J. Chen Qing got the news and rushed into my office in a panic. "Madam, President Lu has gone missing in Country J." Without even looking up, I replied offhandedly, "A grown man like that won't get lost." Perhaps because my demeanor was too calm, he furrowed his brow and said, "Madam, the 2 young masters are very worried and have been crying. Would you like to call to comfort them? They'll stop crying when they tire themselves out." "Is there anything else, Assistant Chen?" Chen Qing seemed to have reached her limit. She turned to me and said, "Chairman, you showed no concern when President Lu was in a car accident in Country J, and now you're ignoring the young master when he needs you. Do you have no heart? All of President Lu's hard work over these years might as well have been for nothing." With that, he went out to discuss and resolve the matter with his assistant over there. Without a word, I sent the dismissal email directly to HR. Whether Lu Yan goes missing or dies, it doesn't affect me much, though it will likely impact Jiang Corporation's stock. I called attorney Zhang in to discuss how we should handle this situation publicly if Lu Yan were to go missing. Just as everyone was running themselves ragged over Lu Yan's disappearance, I came home to find him bustling around the kitchen in an apron. The dining table was set with all my favorite dishes. I froze for a moment, almost convinced I was seeing things. He didn't look well. His beautiful eyes were bloodshot, as if he hadn't had a decent night's sleep in ages. Seeing me, he stiffened, then spoke up with an awkward, unprompted effort. "You're back." I gave a soft hum in response, my gaze involuntarily drifting to the hospital gown he was wearing, wondering what he was up to. Noticing my glance at his gown, his dark eyes suddenly lit up, and he looked at me with a hint of anticipation as he said, "I was in a car accident in Japan." His gaze was far too strange. In all my life, I had never seen such a look in his eyes. It was an eager, aggrieved look tinged with a plea for attention, much like a puppy begging its owner for a pat. I frowned, feeling uneasy. I simply said "Oh," and without another word, took my seat at the dining table and stared at the dishes before me. "Is there anything else you'd like to eat? I can make it for you." Lu Yan's tone when speaking to me was practically gentle compared to his previous aloofness. In the past, he only used this kind of tone with Gu Zhao. To everyone else, he was cold. I shook my head and couldn't help but sigh. This is the first time you've ever cooked for me. He fell silent for a moment, pressing his lips together, then said, from now on, just tell me what you want to eat, and I'll make it for you. Hearing those words come from Lu Yan's mouth, whether in my past life or this one, was utterly chilling to me. I have a strong suspicion that he knew I'd discovered his affair with Gu Chao. He wanted to strike first, to eliminate me quietly and take over my assets. I squeezed the phone in my hand. To avoid any further complications, I shook my head and said, no, Lu Yan, there is no us anymore, is there? I saw Lu Yan visibly stiffen. Then, as if he hadn't heard me, he said, I remember there's pineapple in the fridge. I'll go make you some sweet and sour pork with pineapple. With that, he turned to leave. I didn't see the point in him playing dumb like this, so I spoke without holding back. I won't eat it no matter how much you make. I find it disgusting. Lu Yan froze instantly, all the color draining from his handsome face. He looked at me, his voice hoarse as he said, Ollie, I'm not dirty. Lu Qian called me. He said you and Gu Zhao were holding each other, naked. I didn't. Ali, please listen to me. As Lu Yan spoke, he moved to grab my hand. I recoiled in disgust, stepping far away, and said coldly, don't touch me. Seeing the revulsion in my eyes, he was instantly at a loss. The silence was so profound you could have heard a pin drop. I sat while he stood. After a long, heavy silence, I finally spoke. Lu Yan, I want a divorce. Ollie, no, please, don't say that, I'm begging you. Lu Yan's voice was low and hoarse, tinged with a plea, even a hint of abject humility. Humility. I never imagined the word humble could ever be associated with Lu Yan. Even back in the orphanage, he carried himself with unyielding pride. I thought of the astronomical figures in the internal accounts, and of Lu Yan's talent. A genius like him naturally has every reason to be proud, and would never feel inferior, not to mention the utterly humiliating way he was acting in front of an enemy, someone he considered beneath contempt. His eyes reddened instantly, and he spoke in a choked voice, nearly sobbing, Ali, I'm the worst, hit me, curse at me. Do whatever you want, just please, don't divorce me, I'm begging you. His agony seems genuine, and I can't understand it. Marrying Gu Zhao was the very thing he dreamed of in his past life. Lu Yan, I know you've always loved Gu Zhao. Don't you want to marry her properly and spend the rest of your life with her? Remembering something, I spoke up again, regarding Gu Zhao. Our Jiang family owes you an apology. If we hadn't taken you in, you might never have been separated from her. And if I hadn't complained about it to my mother back then, you wouldn't have been apart for 7 years. Attorney Zhang advised me that at a critical moment like this, we shouldn't push them too hard. Those three are heartless. If we provoke them, they might hurt me and Cece. It's not worth the risk. Before we achieve our goal, we should press our advantage while he's feeling guilty. A few soft words won't hurt. With that thought, I added, besides, Ziyu and Qian don't care for me as their mother. They prefer Gu Chao. Even if we get divorced, it won't really affect them. I had weighed every single word carefully, choosing what I thought he wanted to hear. But I must have hit a nerve. Lu Yan's tears fell just like that, his dark eyes filled with profound agony and despair. He covered his face with his hands, repeating I'm sorry over and over again. His reaction was completely unexpected, and frankly, it doesn't make any sense. Did that car accident in Country J scramble his brains, worried he might do something drastic? I spoke up, Lu Yan, you should remember the prenuptial agreement you signed. I'm giving you 3 days to think it over. If we divorce amicably, I'll give you 20 million. If we go to court, you'll get nothing. If you've made up your mind, then, before I could finish, Lu Yan's next words sent a chill straight to my core. He looked up, his eyes bloodshot as he stared at me and said, Ollie, I've come back too. Those seemingly casual words hit me like a ton of bricks, leaving me reeling. For a split second, the person before me merged with the hate-filled figures from my past life. Lu Yan transformed into a monstrous fiend right before my eyes. My breath caught in my throat, and my entire body began to tremble. I wanted to call Zhang LV, but my vision started to blur, and I could hear Lu Yan's frantic voice in my ears. Ali, you're bleeding. Cece. When I came to again, I was in a VIP hospital room. Lu Yan was by my bedside. I didn't look at him, my hand instinctively moving to touch my stomach. Sensing my worry, Lu Yan said, Cece is fine. You haven't eaten since last night. Here, have some porridge first. As he spoke, he handed me a bowl of soft, well-cooked minced pork congee. I pressed my lips together and didn't take it. He let out a soft sigh and said, "If you won't eat, Cece still needs to, doesn't she?" Hearing him mention Cece, I instinctively frowned and said in a cold voice, "Lu Yen, you have no right to speak of her. If only he had left me even 1% of the fortune in my past life, Cece wouldn't have had to suffer so much with me. I hate Lu Yen, and I hate myself. I hate my own stupidity, for not being able to protect the family fortune. For being preyed upon and driven out of my own home." Lu Yen seemed to have all his strength suddenly drained away, his fingers trembled, nearly causing him to drop the bowl, and he rasped, "I'm sorry. The most useless thing in the world is the phrase I'm sorry." I showed no reaction, so he continued, "In my past life, after I died, I stayed by your side the whole time." Before he could finish, I let out a cold laugh. "Heaven has been quite generous to you. Not only did it grant your dying wish, but it also let you witness it all firsthand." Lu Yen, watching me get betrayed and abandoned by my own flesh and blood, trampled under Gu Zhao's heel, cyberbullied into severe depression, becoming public enemy number one, seeing Cece get bullied and ostracized, witnessing us being dragged bit by bit into hell. "You must be feeling pretty smug, huh?" Lu Yan's face was as pale as a sheet, utterly consumed by guilt, self-blame, and regret. He uttered in despair, "Ailey, I didn't listen to another word he said." Grabbing my phone, I got up from the bed. Lu Yen reached out cautiously to steady me, but I mercilessly slapped his hand away. "Get away from me, don't touch me." I went into the bathroom and sent a message to Attorney Zhang. Since Lu Yen is back now, and he hasn't transferred the assets yet, he's naturally unwilling to get a divorce, so there's only one path forward. Just as Jiangli stepped into the bathroom, Lu Yan's phone began to ring. He glanced at the caller ID. It was his assistant calling from Country J. The moment he answered, his assistant's frantic voice came through the line. "Boss Lu, we have a problem." What's wrong?" "Didn't you have me buy jewelry for Miss Gu and Song Yu last night? They wore it out today, were kidnapped right on the street, and the kidnappers called demanding 500 million. Lu Yan's voice was cold, devoid of any surprise, as if he had anticipated this all along, and said, "Have you called the police?" "Not yet. The kidnappers said they'd kill the hostage if we dared to call the police." "In a situation like this, what are you waiting for if not to call the police? You have to trust in the authorities. Call them, and have them contact her husband as well. It's best to let the family handle this sort of thing." The assistant was clearly taken aback and didn't react immediately. Any other questions?" There was a long pause on the other end of the line before the voice replied, "Understood, Mr. Lu." After hanging up the phone, Lu Yen returned to find Jiangli missing. Assuming she was still in the restroom, he sat down by the hospital bed and began ordering some food for her. She was still carrying Cece and couldn't go without eating anything. After waiting for over 10 minutes with no sign of her, Lu Yen grew concerned and walked to the restroom door, calling out tentatively, "Ailey, are you okay?" There was no response from inside. A vague sense of unease settled in Lu Yan's heart, and he said, "Ailey, if you don't answer, I'm coming in." Lu Yan waited 30 seconds. When there was no response from inside, he rushed into the bathroom, only to find Jiangli was already gone. 11. Lu Yan could never have imagined that Jiangli would vanish right under his nose, disappearing without a trace as if she had evaporated into thin air. No matter how hard he searched, he couldn't find her. If it weren't for the fact that she was proceeding with the divorce lawsuit as usual and even publicizing their assets, he would have thought she had truly gone missing. Jiangli was dead set on divorcing him. In her eyes, he was utterly untrustworthy now. She disclosed their assets publicly precisely because she feared he would hide them. If he hadn't also returned, she probably wouldn't have even told him she was pregnant with Cece. Lu Yen felt as if he had swallowed a gallbladder, a bitterness that seeped from his throat all the way down to his heart. Yet he had no one to blame but himself. He had brought all of this upon his own head. In his past life, the arrogant young man knew nothing of love. He had always believed he loved Gu Zhao. He hated Jiangli for reporting him to Mother Jiang, for tearing him and Gu Zhao apart, for forcing Gu Zhao into a corner. Driven to desperation, Gu Zhao, pregnant with his child, had to marry a 60-year-old man, only to suffer domestic abuse. Jiangli also endured years of vicious gossip alongside Song Yu, so, he too wanted Jiangli to suffer. Perhaps it was this obsession that kept his spirit from moving on after death, causing him to linger by their side. She saw it with her own eyes, the shock and confusion in his clear eyes after he told her to go to hell, and then the heart-wrenching sobs after his death, when Mother Jiang passed away. She had cried just as bitterly, her eyes so swollen she could barely open them. She was truly foolish and slow, never once sensing his hatred for her all those years. after he was laid to rest, she seemed to have aged years, streaks of white appeared in her hair, and she grew quiet and withdrawn. He had fully expected her and the 3 children to be thrown out of the house. He hated Jiangli, and in truth, he felt little affection for the 3 children she bore. The only reason he had children with her was to keep her occupied and out of his hair. Consequently, he neglected the children's upbringing. Influenced by him from a young age, Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu took Jiangli's sacrifices for granted, showing her no respect and even looking down on their own mother. He was well aware of all this, but simply couldn't be bothered to intervene. As the heiress of the Jiang group, its nominal chairwoman, and Lu Yan's wife, people might mock her as a fool behind her back, but in her presence, everyone treated her with utmost deference. The slights she endured were nothing compared to a tenth of what Gu Zhao suffered. Since her birth, Cici has always been more attached to Jiangli. His resentment extended to her, and he's always seen Cici as an ungrateful child, nowhere near as sweet and obedient as Song Yu, making him dislike her more and more. Perhaps Cici sensed his dislike for her and kept her distance in return. In truth, he left 2 wills. One bequeathed all his assets to his and Gu Chao's daughter, Song Yu. The other stipulated that if the 3 children rejected Jiangli and wished to return, they would receive 20% of the Jiang family's shares. He hated Jiangli and wanted to see her utterly abandoned, to watch her being dragged into hell, utterly alone and step by step. Yet, when he saw her driven from her home, losing lawsuit after lawsuit, and unable to survive in the capital, he did not feel the satisfaction he had imagined. Even when she lost the lawsuit and was crying alone in a corner, he would feel a tightness in his chest, struggling to breathe. Jiangli grew up in a life of luxury and never cared much for material things. Her tears weren't for the lost property, but for failing to protect what her mother had left her. It was him taking advantage of her naivety and the fact that with her mother gone, she had no one to stand up for her. After Gu Zhao claimed Song Yu was his child, he began moving assets. He thought that since Song Yu and Gu Chao had suffered so much, this property could serve as compensation for the mother and daughter. But later, everything he had done came back to haunt him, striking him like a boomerang. Song Yu wasn't his child at all. That night he thought he was drunk and had lain in bed with Gu Chao. Nothing had actually happened. The Gu Chao he believed to be kind and innocent had, in her quest for social climbing, hooked up with a 60-year-old married man. To secure her position, she slept with a few random men to get pregnant, leveraging the child to displace the original wife and become a wealthy mistress. Later, when the tycoon discovered the child wasn't his, he began to abuse her, with nowhere else to turn. Gu Chao then came looking for him. He had blind faith in Gu Zhao. No matter what she said, he believed it without question. Whenever a conflict arose between Gu Zhao and Jiangli, he would side with Gu Zhao without a moment's hesitation. Lu Yan couldn't bear to imagine how much injustice Jiangli had endured all those years. She simply didn't speak up, or perhaps she knew that even if she told him, he wouldn't stand up for her or take her side. He was a failure as a husband, a failure as a father, and a failure as a man. Mother Jiang adopted him and gave him the finest education, yet after her death, he bullied the daughter she cherished most. He is a complete and utter failure. Countless times, he has regretted why he was so cruel and heartless to her back then. If only he had shown his wife a shred of mercy and left her with some security, she and Cici wouldn't have suffered so much. Lu Yan's thoughts were in disarray, and his heart began to ache with sharp, stabbing pains once more. Gu Zhao was right. Actually, he had fallen for Jiangli long ago. That's why, from the time they left the orphanage until they met again, Gu Zhao had been imitating Jiangli's every move, and he, in turn, had fallen for Gu Zhao as intended. Because he knew the real Gu Zhao wasn't foolish, he was just subconsciously resisting the fact that he had fallen in love with a simpleton. If only he had realized his true feelings sooner, perhaps everything would have been different. He had thought that his return was a second chance from fate, a chance to make amends, but it seems everything was already too late. Lu Yan looked around the desolate villa and realized, with a start, how empty the house had become. There used to be photoshopped pictures of the 4 of them as a family placed all over the house. Back then, he had scoffed at them. Now that they were gone, a sudden, hollow ache settled in his chest. The matching slippers, the his and hers mugs, anything that was connected to him, she had replaced it all. Lu Yan got to his feet and staggered upstairs into the master bedroom. The giant, photoshopped wedding portrait that had hung above the headboard was gone, too. Every trace of their shared life was erased by her. As abruptly as the love she had withdrawn, Lu Yan reached out and opened the cabinet. He remembered the good luck bracelet she had woven for him with her own hands was inside. He had never worn it, just left it tossed in there. But now, the bracelet was gone. In its place were 3 condoms, scented with jasmine, Jiang Li's most detested fragrance, and Gu Zhao loved jasmine the most. He didn't buy these, and Ollie certainly wouldn't have either. Contraceptives were something they never let Mrs. Wu handle. As for the rest, the only person who could have bought them and left them here was Gu Zhao. Lu Yan's face turned deathly pale, as if a hand were tightening around his throat, and his breathing began to grow labored. 12. After leaving the capital, I arrived in Yunqing. This is where my grandmother grew up. It's a beautiful place with a slow pace of life, perfect for recuperation. I'm staying here for my pregnancy, and in my spare time, I visit my grandparents' graves. Attorney Zhang often calls me to update me on the situation in the capital and regarding the Jiang family. Lu Yan went to see her many times, trying to find out where I was. I heard that Lu Yan hasn't been doing well. He ended up in the emergency room several times from drinking. When I heard about it, I said, his first love just had an accident abroad. Of course he's taking it hard. In country J, Gu Chao was sexually assaulted and then murdered, along with Song Yu. The kidnappers dismembered their bodies and dumped the remains into a septic tank. This news story even made it to the trending topics. After hearing what I said, Attorney Zhang fell silent for a long moment before changing the subject. When she was 5 months pregnant, Lu Yan finally relented and agreed to the divorce. He left with nothing but the 2 children, on the condition that he would have visitation rights to Cici, once a week. Once a week was too frequent. I didn't agree to that. After another 2 weeks of back and forth, he finally agreed to my proposal of once a month. On the day my flight landed, Attorney Zhang came to pick me up. And along with him came Lu Yan, Lu Qian, and Lu Ziyu. It's only been a few months, but they seem to have changed so much. Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu have become quieter and more polite. When they saw me, they even called me mom. The look in their eyes was no longer one of disdain, but of respect. As for Lu Yan, he's lost a lot of weight, though he's dressed neatly. His eyes can't hide the weariness and world weariness. The incident with Gu Chao really hit him hard. As soon as we were in the car, before I could even speak, Attorney Zhang said, Mr. Lu, to Huazhou Junting, please. Huazhou Junting was in the North District. Lu Yan changed direction and headed north. The car remained quiet for the entire journey, save for Lu Yan's unnecessary pleasantries, like how the baby is doing, if there's any morning sickness, whether I'm sleeping well. Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu were sitting in the back. I caught them stealing glances at me several times, or more precisely, at my belly, their eyes filled with curiosity. Once they realized I was looking back, they awkwardly averted their gaze. In the end, Lu Qian couldn't hold back and spoke up first, putting on an innocent act. Mom, Dad says my brother and I are going to have a little sister. When she's born, we'll play with her and take good care of her. We won't let anyone bully her, we promise. Oh, what's her name going to be? Take good care of her. In my past life, the ones who bullied Cici the most were the 2 of them. I pressed my lips together and cut him off. After your father and I get divorced, I'll take good care of her. You're both still young, so just focus on looking after yourselves. Mom, are you and Dad getting a divorce? Lu Qian's voice was filled with unmistakable shock, as if he had just learned the news. I paused for a moment, then looked at Lu Yan, who was driving, and said, you didn't tell them. Lu Yan's grip on the steering wheel tightened as he said, there wasn't time, the trial is tomorrow, and he says there wasn't time. Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu began to cry, their little hearts breaking just like so many children do upon learning their parents are getting a divorce. Mom, we don't want you and Dad to get divorced. Is it because Anan and Ziyu weren't good? Is that why you want to divorce Dad? Mom, from now on, we'll be good, we'll listen to everything you say. Please, don't get divorced. In the past, seeing them cry so heartbreakingly, my own heart would have ached, and I would have rushed to comfort them. But now, I feel nothing, just as they stabbed me in the back to curry favor with Gu Chao, watching Cici and me suffer, watching me die in the sunshower without a shred of remorse. The bond between mother and son should have been severed in my past life. The car stopped in front of Huazhou Junting. Seeing me unbuckle my seatbelt, Lu Yan spoke up, do you need anything? I can help, I'll get off here. He seemed to think he'd misheard. Even Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu, who were still crying, looked at me and sobbed. Mom, aren't you coming home? No, I'm not. As I pushed the car door open, I heard Lu Yan say in a hoarse voice, Ali, just 2 simple words. Yet they seemed to hold 1,000 unspoken ones. I paused for a moment, but didn't turn back. On the day of the trial, the judge asked me, Ms. Jiang, are you certain you wish to relinquish both custody and visitation rights for your 2 children? I looked at the 2 pairs of eyes in the gallery, filled with obvious anxiety and yet a glimmer of hope, and nodded without a moment's hesitation, "I am certain." As the court session concluded, Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu immediately stood up and rushed towards me. In his haste, Lu Ziyu took a hard fall, tumbling to the floor, and pleaded, "Mom, please don't leave us, don't abandon me and my brother." Lu Qian looked at me with the same pleading eyes. I merely glanced at them before indifferently looking away. After gathering my documents, I had just stood up when Lu Yan grabbed my hand. His heart softened as he said, "They're still so young. Are you really going to abandon them?" I didn't want to hear what he had to say. I just looked at him and said, "Lu Yan, surely you haven't forgotten how they treated me in our past life." Lu Yan's face trembled. His grip on my hand gradually loosened. After a long pause, he finally spoke in a low, hoarse voice, "I'm sorry, I failed to raise them right." I said nothing more. Without another moment's hesitation, I turned and walked away. "Mom, please don't leave us." Behind me, the children's heart-wrenching cries tore through the air. I clenched my fist, suppressing my maternal instincts, and walked straight out of the courthouse doors. 13. After the divorce, my life finally began to get back on track. Attorney Zhang's law firm was still in its funding stage. I invested a significant sum, becoming her partner. We then purchased an office building in the best part of downtown Beijing and established the firm's second branch, while on maternity leave. I enrolled in an online program taught by world-class business PhDs and hired a professional manager to take over Lu Yan's position. Very few people could match Lu Yan's natural talent. In less than 3 months since his departure, the Jiang Group's performance has plummeted, and even their product updates have started to receive significant criticism in the market. For a legacy company like Jiang's, reputation is everything. I was so stressed I felt like my hair was falling out. And I couldn't eat for days. Attorney Zhang was beside himself with worry. "You have to eat, if not for yourself, then for my goddaughter." Staring at the company's financial statements with a grimace, I said, "I haven't had much of an appetite lately." Attorney Zhang runs her own firm to begin with, and she's far more capable than I am. She took the report from my hands, glanced at it, and immediately furrowed her brow. "How did we manage to lose nearly 8 billion in just 3 months?" I pressed my lips together and said nothing. But she clearly knew as well. After a long silence, she spoke up, "If it comes to it, you should ask your ex-husband to come back. He seems quite willing. Don't refuse just yet. Professional matters should be handled by professionals. After all of this is yours now. If he comes, he'd just be working for you. With me here, I'll keep an eye on the company's finances for you. He won't be able to touch a thing. Some men just need a reality check." He's a classic case of not knowing what he's got until it's gone. Anyway, he's still hung up on you. He's talented, and he's capable. Forget all the drama and heartache. Money is what really matters. Just bring him in, learn everything you can from him, and once you've got the hang of it, show him the door. Honestly, those so-called business PhDs can't hold a candle to him. No one ever complains about having too much money. The successful ones just end up starting business schools or management consultancies. But at the end of the day, what they teach is all theory. It's like the education and training industry, just generic stuff. They haven't actually gotten their hands dirty in the real world across different industries. What you learn from them is just surface-level knowledge, stuff you can't even really apply in real life. A lot of things you just have to learn by doing, through practice, review, and reflection. We women shouldn't just learn to be independent. We need to master the art of leveraging symbiotic relationships, make everything in this world work for us. If I had an ex-husband like him, I'd squeeze out every last drop of value he's got. You don't love him anyway. Nothing he does can hurt you now. Just kick him to the curb when he's no longer useful. Attorney Zhang's words really struck a chord with me. After 2 days of hesitation, I still called Lu Yan. I didn't beat around the bush. I just came right out and said what I was thinking. There was no response for a long while, but Lu Yan was no fool. Having been reborn, with his capabilities, he certainly wouldn't fare worse than he did at Jiang Corp. "If you're not willing." "No, I am willing, Ollie. I am. I'll go back tomorrow." Hearing the slightly agitated tone in Lu Yan's voice through the receiver, I furrowed my brow and said, "You should address me as Chairman Jiang." "Yes, Chairman Jiang. I'm 8 months pregnant now, so I handle everything, both my studies and company matters, remotely." On his first day back at the company, Lu Yan established a dedicated short-form video division to develop that business line. We both knew how big short-form video was going to be. I just didn't expect him to make his move now. I thought he was going solo. In my mind, we were supposed to be locked in a fight to the finish. I never imagined we could coexist peacefully after the divorce, but now, when I see him, my heart no longer races. I don't feel that insecure awkwardness anymore, nor do I waste a second wondering if he likes me or can't stand me. I've started to carry myself like a real boss, even feeling genuinely pleased about the sharp uptick in performance since his return. It's as if we've completely swapped roles. I've noticed he started to watch my moods, trying to figure out what pleases me. He'd even drive halfway around the capital just to buy my favorite pastries, spend a fortune on albums I loved, or arrange for my favorite stage actor to visit. The day I gave birth to Cece, I needed a C-section due to the baby's position. He was upset for weeks because he couldn't sign my surgery consent form. Even Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu learned to surprise me with creative gifts. These were all things I once longed for, but now, watching them do these things, I feel nothing inside. Just like in my past life, Lu Yan died young. Fortunately, by the time he passed, I had fully learned how to manage the company, analyze the market, and had developed my own set of insights in the new energy sector. When I rushed to the hospital, he was barely holding my hand. Through the oxygen mask, he called my name over and over, his voice growing fainter and fainter. Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu stood by the hospital bed, covering their mouths as they wept, choked with sobs. I looked at him, offering a polite yet distant smile. You've been through so much these years, get some proper rest. He looked back at me, struggling to find the words, but in the end, he said nothing. A single tear traced its way down from the corner of his eye. After Lu Yan passed away, I buried his ashes beside Gu Zhao and Song Yu. After Lu Yan's death, Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu seemed to mature overnight. On Mother's Day, they bought me so many gifts. And brought plenty for Cece too, more than I could carry in both hands. Perhaps having just lost their father, they poured all their filial affection for both parents into me. They looked at the villa behind me, their eyes filled with a certain hopeful expectation. I knew they were hoping I'd invite them in for dinner. I pretended not to understand and said, "It's getting late, you should head back soon and be careful in the dark." They left, disappointed, carrying the gift box in my hand. I turned and went back inside. As I passed the trash can by my front door, I threw everything in my hands into it. The moment I finished, I caught sight of two figures in my peripheral vision. Turning around, I saw Lu Qian and Lu Ziyu standing there, each holding a clumsily knitted scarf, clearly handmade by them. They looked at the gift in the trash, then turned the same heartbroken gaze toward me. I pressed my lips together, and after a long pause, I said, "Since you've all seen it, don't come back anymore. I still can't bring myself to like you. In fact, I find you repulsive." Their tears fell just like that, lips trembling as they called me mom, but I paid no more attention, went inside, and shut the door. They stood at the door for a long time, then left in dejection. After that night, we never saw each other again. As for how they're doing, I'm not really sure. In any case, Cece and I are living very happily. The end.